Okay, so let's set the scene. You come home, you're exhausted, you're fighting with the apartment door, it's always sticky, swollen from the humidity. And as you finally get inside, the hallway light does that slow, dying flicker. Inside, the air is just, it's thick. It has that smell, maybe old mustard, maybe something metallic, just that familiar kind of mundane discomfort. You
Yeah.
drop your keys on the kitchen table, and they don't clink. They hit something that shouldn't be there, something soft.
And that's it, isn't it? That's the moment, the exact moment. The
Yeah.
familiar world, the world you think you control, just turns on you with something utterly impossible.
We're doing a deep dive today into a story about a sudden, completely bizarre biological infestation, one that starts in the most personal space you can imagine.
Yeah, and our mission here is to trace the timeline of this thing, this phenomenon, but also to really get into the narrator's head, from this deep, suffocating denial all the way to, well, to a kind of radical, violent self-intervention.
And we have to look at the rules. There are specific rules that seem to govern this infection, and they tell us something really disturbing about perception itself.
Absolutely. We're tracking a collision between this pure cosmic dread and the incredibly practical, almost banal anxieties of just trying to get by. It's a journey into this sensory nightmare where the impossible reality is often less scary than the thought of how much it would cost to fix it.
So the keys drop. They land on this weird round lump under the tablecloth, and the first thought is, oh, it's a lost marble.
Or a button, yeah. Something you can just dismiss.
Something simple, but they reach out, pull back the cloth, and that's when the world just completely shatters.
And what's underneath is,
Hmm.
it's shocking because it's so perfectly formed. It's a human eye, a
Yeah.
fully formed human eye, and it's wet, embedded right there in the wood of the kitchen table. The skin around it is almost translucent, barely raised. It looks alive.
And here's the detail that just stops your heart. It blinked. The pupil actually adjusted, tracking the shadow of his head moving over it. That's the moment logic just fails.
And that's where you see the first coping mechanism kick in.
Yeah.
Immediate, frantic rationalization. He's cycling through every possible mundane explanation. It's a fungus, the wood is warping,
Anything but the truth.
anything.
Right.
But when it blinks again, that defense just crumbles. And so he switches tactics to physical denial.
He grabs a spoon,
Yeah.
and tries to pry it out, to scrape it off his table. But it won't budge. It's rooted there. And this brings us to this incredible tension in the story. Why, after that, does he just cover it up and walk away?
Because the horror isn't just biological, it's financial.
Yeah.
He isn't walking away because he's calm. He's walking away because he literally doesn't have the cash to deal with it.
Yeah.
The next paycheck is 5 days away. This impossible thing is immediately filtered through his budget.
Hold on, let's unpack that.
Ah.
He is looking at a living organ growing out of his furniture. And the first real barrier he hits isn't, the laws of physics breaking down.
Yeah.
It's the price of a specialist.
It's everything. It suggests that when you're in that state of constant high-level anxiety about money, about just surviving, that mundane stress is the only thing big enough to rival cosmic dread. He can't afford to confront the truth. So denial becomes a pragmatic economic choice.
Of course. And denial is it's an accelerator for catastrophe. He wakes up the next morning, and that denial shatters the second he looks at the table.
That's right. The tablecloth now has 2 distinct lumps under it, side by side. It incubated overnight. So what's the coping mechanism now?
Avoidance.
Pure avoidance.
Yeah.
He deliberately doesn't look, grabs his stuff, and just flees to work. He's hoping that physical distance is going to somehow, sterilize the problem.
But his world at work is just a perfect mirror of the chaos at home. It's not a refuge, it's a mess. Botched inventory, his manager's yelling at him. And he's not thinking about the impossible thing. He's obsessing over the cost of a full mold treatment. He's still clinging to that rational framework.
Because that's a problem you can quantify, right? Is it a $500 problem or a $2,000 problem? It's a desperate attempt to categorize the horror instead of facing the fact that his table is growing eyes.
The reality check hits hard when he gets home that night. The air in the apartment feels heavy, pressurized. The window is fogged up from the inside. And he pulls back the cloth.
And it's not 2 eyes anymore. The whole surface is it's a collective. A dozen, maybe more, bulges are pushing up from the wood. And what's so disturbing is the biological detail. They aren't all the same.
What kind of details are we talking about?
An unsettling variety. Some are wide open, alert. Others are blinking slowly with this visible effort, like they're struggling to exist. And there are specific afflictions. One is veined and swollen. Another is hazel with these eerily long lashes. One is clouded over with a pale, sick-looking film. It's a gallery of of ocular suffering.
Just a visual overload, and his mind, it's still desperately clinging to the known. He perceives it as some form of mold or fungus.
Exactly, because mold is treatable. Mold has a price tag, so he looks up a mold inspection quote. It's instant, and it's way too high. Paycheck is still days away. So the window of action just closes. He's locked into inaction by his bank account.
And that inaction creates the perfect environment for it to spread, to make the jump. He falls asleep, exhausted, and wakes up later. He stretches, and he feels that his back isn't on the mattress. Not really. It's uneven. It's damp.
The infestation has crossed the threshold. It's jumped from the furniture to his personal, intimate space, the mattress. Eyes are covering the surface where he sleeps. They've left wet trails. And that one horrifying detail, one eye follows his movement as he sits up. It's personal now. It's pervasive.
So he clings to that last thread of rational intervention. Money. He books a late-night slot with a mold specialist. The quote is insane, but he's past caring. He just needs someone else to see it.
Right. He needs external validation. He leaves work early, can't function. He's desperate to prove this reality to another human being, to prove he isn't just collapsing mentally.
The exterminator shows up, and inside the apartment, it's a complete takeover.
We should pause here because the detail is just overwhelming. Where are they now?
Everywhere. Any crevice, any surface. The kitchen backsplash, nesting in the grout between the tiles. They're splitting the wood of the drawers. And crucially, they've contaminated the consumables. There's one half submerged in the coffee maker's water reservoir. Inside the fridge, an eye is blinking slowly between the ketchup and the baking soda. It's not just on the furniture anymore, it's in the home's vital organs.
And the clusters. The story says the clusters are the worst part.
They're the culmination of the spread. In the corner of the ceiling, these tight patches have formed. They're swollen, blinking at random intervals. Their eyelids are all tangled together like some pulsating living mat. And some are weeping this thick, pale yellow fluid.
He turns to the exterminator, just desperate, pointing everywhere, saying, "You don't see this. You don't see the eyes." And this. This is the critical turn. The exterminator looks around, very politely, very professionally, and just asks, "See what exactly?" The man is completely functionally blind to it. He sees a messy apartment, nothing more.
That has to be the most devastating moment. The last hope of an objective reality is just gone.
It's the moment the problem shifts from biological to purely perceptual. The narrator watches this guy spray his useless chemicals, and the eyes don't even react, and the realization dawns. This thing, whatever it is, it operates on rules that are subjective to him. It's only on his plane of perception, which raises that huge question, right? You're the only one who sees the horror. Is it less real? Or is it infinitely more real because it's so isolating?
Unable to cope, he just retreats, covers the mattress with quilts, comforters, anything. But he can still feel them underneath, these little humps tenting up along his spine.
And that sensory input, that feeling of being pressed on even when he can't see them, it leads to the aha moment. The discovery of the first rule. He closes his eyes, and the pressure vanishes instantly. He opens them, and the pressure returns.
So temporary control. It's achieved through self-imposed darkness. Not chemicals, not force, just the conscious withdrawal of sight.
Exactly. It's the only boundary he can create. It suggests the link between him and this infestation is mediated specifically through the act of seeing.
But temporary control is useless when the collapse is total. He wakes up again, and the world has been completely overwritten.
Every surface is buried. The ceiling is just a dense mat of fused, tangled eyes. He has to navigate his own apartment blind, just by touch, to get to the door.
And stepping outside is no relief. The infection has gone public. It's integrated itself into the city. Eyes are tucked into sidewalk cracks, blinking out of a crushed soda can.
Running along the rim of a stop sign. The horror is no longer contained, and the image that proves it's everywhere is this little kid playing nearby. The child holds up what looks like a daisy, but a bright blue iris blinks from the very center of the petals. Nature itself is becoming an organ of sight.
This external collapse leads to the final confrontation at work. He sees an eye on his computer screen, and then his manager walks over.
And he's not. He's not recognizable as human anymore. He's swollen. Eyes are bulging from his sternum, from under his collar. They're filling his mouth. That same pale fluid is leaking from between his lips. He's trying to speak, but his voice is just lost in the abomination he's become.
The terror is absolute. He tries to flee in his car, but the eyes are already there, on the seats, in the steering wheel, looking at him from the rearview mirror. There is no escape.
And the realization has to be just crushing. A physical solution is impossible. If the whole world is visually infested and the only escape is closing your eyes, you have to make it permanent. You have to remove the mechanism of sight.
He goes back home, sits in an infested chair, finding that brief moment of peace just by keeping his eyes shut. The decision is made. Grim, cold, necessary.
And the preparation is just chillingly practical. He goes to the kitchen drawer and gets the tools. A spoon, still dirty with dried sauce, and a pair of rusty scissors. The instruments of self-destruction are the instruments of everyday life.
He sits on the bathroom floor on top of countless eyes and dials emergency services. "I'm hurt," he says, "severe bleeding." And then the act. He uses the spoon to get behind the socket, gouging into the flesh. He feels a wet pop, and the eye is just dangling.
He describes severing the optic cord with the dull scissors. He said it felt like chewing rubber. When it finally snaps, everything on one side just goes black. He brutalizes the second eye, tearing, stabbing, until it splits, until there's only total immediate darkness.
The physical suffering, the pain, the blood, the sound of sirens getting closer, it finally overrides the sensory input of the eyes. He wakes up later in a hospital. It's quiet, peaceful. The nurse confirms he survived, but he's totally blind. And crucially, his eyelids were too damaged. He can never blink again.
The nurse leaves. And in that silence, the final, horrifying truth reveals itself. The mattress beneath him begins to shift. He can feel the shapes moving, swelling upward, slow and certain through the sheets, right against the bandages on his empty sockets. The feeling is back.
The ultimate question the narrative leaves us with is just so disturbing. The rule was, close your eyes, the pressure vanishes. But now that sight is gone, and the act of closing his eyes is impossible. The horror returns.
It's the story's devastating final point, isn't it? He went from denial to looking for cheap fixes to radical self-destruction. He eliminated the very mechanism of perception. But eliminating his sight didn't eliminate the underlying creeping reality.
It's a chilling analogy for confronting any truth, really. If you ignore it, no matter how strange or inconvenient, it just metastasizes, it spreads, and eventually it demands a price that isn't physical.
And if the eyes reappear even after sight is removed, what layer of reality do they even represent? Was the rule ever about light hitting the retina? Or was it about the deliberate conscious act of withdrawal? That essential difference between being passively blind and actively choosing to close your eyes? That's where the horror lives. Something for you to ponder the next time you feel a bump under the tablecloth.